Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm joined by Saul Lustgarten and Diego Tamburini, and today we're going to talk about manufacturing and digital manufacturing for SMEs. So Saul joins us from Tulip. Saul, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. I am honored to share today the time with Diego. Diego, thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Saul Lustgarten. I do product growth here at Tulip, and I especially manage small and medium businesses that are our customers. Yeah.
And Diego, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, John and Saul, for having me here, and thank you everyone who's listening. I'm the manufacturing industry lead for a team in the Microsoft Cloud and AI division called Commercial Cloud Communities. And what we do is we engage with the industry to identify software vendors that are strategic and promising and thought leaders, and work with them to help them implement their solutions on our cloud platform and to publish their solutions on our cloud marketplace. And I've been working closely with Tulip for about a year now, helping them port their solution to our cloud platform, Azure. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us, Diego. And we are really lucky today to have these two speakers. They know a tremendous amount about manufacturing and both have extensive experience working with small and medium-sized manufacturers. So I think we're really going to learn a lot, and you're going to be able to walk away with a lot of useful information that you can apply in your own operations. So just as a quick outline of what today's webinar is going to look like. So today we will kick it off by sort of just talking about the unique challenges that SMEs face in the digital era. There is a big disparity between adoption of digital technologies in large enterprises and SMEs, and it doesn't have to be that way. So we'll give an overview of those reasons, and then the rest of the conversation will really be geared around concrete points for beginning to adopt digital technologies and beginning the sort of road toward digital transformation. And after that, we'll open it up. We'll have a conversation between the two speakers, and we welcome your questions at any point. So there should be a chat function. You can send questions that way. Otherwise, there'll be email addresses at the end. So please send us your questions, and we'll be able to get answers to you as quickly as possible.
So before we get going, I want to share a little information and emphasize why we're thinking about SME manufacturers at this moment. If you're listening to this, then you already understand why SMEs need digital transformation. But when it comes down to it, making digital transformation accessible for all manufacturers is necessary for keeping the manufacturing industry competitive, as well as for keeping global supply chains functioning. If you look at the numbers, SMEs represent up to 70% of manufacturers worldwide. This is particularly true in North America and Europe. In some regions, they disproportionately account for new jobs created in manufacturing. Even if they represent the majority of manufacturers worldwide, SMEs have been disproportionately slow to adopt digital technologies. A 2018 OECD report found that only 5% of SMEs considered themselves extensively networked, and only 40% reported having a concrete digital strategy. Further, a recent literature review found that as many as 77% of SMEs had no strategy or plans for digitizing their operations. So if SMEs represent such a huge portion of manufacturers, we have to ask why this disparity exists. If you look at the offerings available in the last few decades, it makes sense. Most digital solutions were geared toward the largest manufacturers. They were expensive, they were difficult to integrate, and they required significant upkeep and maintenance. To put it a little differently, SMEs were priced out of digital transformation. This disparity also makes sense if you consider the profusion of new technology and software offerings recently. SMEs often don't have innovation departments or the worker power required to research, scope, and vet new technologies. So without a clear entry point, many delayed their digital initiatives. The good news is that this has changed. The delay in SME digitization has been as much a reflection of market priorities as it has the evolution of new technology. Now there are lightweight, easy to use, easy to configure solutions that can help SMEs get started quickly. This is an area where both Microsoft and Tulip are committed to helping. Both speakers today have extensive experience working with SME manufacturers, and they've both seen firsthand real-world results. So what we want to do today is share our observations from working with small manufacturers and extend as much useful information as possible from our experiences. The rest of the webinar will cover concrete ways that SMEs can get started with IoT and digital manufacturing, And without further ado, I want to open up the conversation and now bring in our two speakers.
So Diego, I want to open the conversation by asking you to talk a little bit about your experience at Microsoft. So Industry 4.0 and digital transformation have been key priorities for large manufacturers. It's been the case for a while, and it's increasingly the case. How should SMEs begin to think about digital transformation, and how should they prioritize?
SMBs should think about Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing or factory of the future, however you call it, and digital transformation as critical priorities for them too. They are not just about automation for large or high volume manufacturers. At the core, they are about using data to optimize operations and improve product quality. So SMBs need to do this as much as the large enterprises. I will argue even more because the profit margins are sometimes smaller for SMBs.
That's interesting. So, and Saul, it's often been said that digital transformation is a luxury that's only afforded by the enterprises. And you talk to smaller manufacturers all day. So is this something that you think they should think about, or how should they think about it?
Yeah, no, I would agree with Diego's point. I think digital transformation is a strategic imperative and not a luxury. In fact, I think it's particularly important, as Diego was saying, for SMBs to invest in it because it can let them compete against, the big guys. If you're an SMB competing against a large enterprise, you kind of need to steal from the David against Goliath playbook a little bit. So you might be small, but you got to be smarter and faster, right? And digital transformation is the only way to do this. So saying you don't have the budget for it just means that you're not looking at the right solution and you're not being creative, because there's options out there for everyone, especially nowadays. So if a vendor you're considering is asking for prohibitive upfront costs that make you think this is a luxury, you're probably not looking at the right one. And I would say, you just have to leverage the cloud and the fact that it enables software as a service, because you have SaaS vendors, software as a service vendors, like us, like Tulip, that let you try before you buy, let you start small and grow. And that really opens it up for small and medium businesses. So in short, we're living at a time where digital transformation is actually being de-risked. So if you're smart, you got to take advantage of this and use it to differentiate yourself to become more competitive.
I think that's interesting. I think that's an important point you made at the end there, that digital transformation is being de-risked, where it used to be that the high upfront costs or the sort of the amount of labor that would need to be sort of transferred onto proof of concept used to make it incredibly risky to try out new things. And I think the advent of software as a service, and the advent of cloud solutions, that there isn't as much risk there. You can try quickly, and if it fails, and you know that doesn't work. There's not a huge amount of resource allocation into it. So, right. Diego, I want to move the conversation back over to you. So both of you have sort of said that this is an imperative. This is something that needs to happen now. What kind of challenges do the SMBs you work with face? Like, are there unique challenges to being a smaller manufacturer?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, generally speaking, small and medium manufacturers have just less resources to dedicate to digital transformation initiatives. They're all about meeting production deadlines and fulfilling orders. So they have less room for error and less appetite for risk. So this decreases their desire for experimentation unless their survival is clearly at risk, right? So, and on top of that, there is a slew of technologies and buzzwords associated with digital transformation. I mean, like IoT, big data, AI, machine learning, AR, VR, and the list goes on and on. And the vendor ecosystem is highly fragmented. So it can be overwhelming to figure out what the right path is and make a technology and vendor choice.
That's interesting. And I think it's true that there are too many buzzwords to handle, and it's very difficult to differentiate hype from substance. And if you are understaffed and worried about production deadlines, then likely there just aren't the human or capital resources to properly vet all the solutions or to figure out what's right for your operation. So I know one thing we've noticed at Tulip is that it's important to have a broader infrastructure that you can build further initiatives off of. And one of the big pieces of infrastructure that supports greater things is cloud and SaaS. SaaS being both smaller offerings that you can expand on or use in ways that fit your needs, but cloud being something that works broadly for a lot of different digital initiatives. So Saul, do you want to talk about how cloud can help smaller manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Diego's point, buzzwords are, easy to throw around, but the real value, it's about the results, right? So in manufacturing, all manufacturers, regardless of the size, we care about lean production and continuous improvement. So in my opinion, I think the main benefit of software as a service is that it lets you bring this continuous improvement mentality to your software as well, to your systems. Because software as a service, being in the cloud, it lets your vendor, continuously improve the product with new features, so that you get access to the latest product at all times. So your product is always improving, just like your operations. Furthermore, as I said before, software as a service lets small and medium businesses de-risk the digital transformation initiative. So, we talked about this earlier, but a couple of ways in which cloud can de-risk your digital transformation is, that as we were saying before, digitizing your processes in your operation used to require a large investment, right? You need to have a team, you need to spend a lot of time building custom solutions or deploying them. You needed, maybe to buy servers to maintain them and so on. But now with cloud, you can outsource basically this infrastructure. So it lets you be more lean, and it just lowers the cost, right? So thanks to the cloud, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just hire a product to do those things for you, and you can rely on a third party, like Microsoft Azure, to ensure that your information is safe on the cloud at all times. So it's just less risky to go on the cloud.
So it's really interesting that you bring that up at the end, that the cloud is less risky, because I know one thing we hear when we talk to smaller manufacturers is that one of the biggest concerns is that the cloud isn't going to be as secure as having all of your information and all of your computing on premise, that it's not going to be as secure as if you have your IT people sort of stewarding the systems all the time. So Diego, Microsoft Azure is one of the largest cloud providers in the world, and you, I'm sure, deal with questions of security all the time. What would you say to someone who is concerned that the cloud is not as secure as on-premise?
Yeah. Yes, I will. First of all, I say that the concerns are absolutely justified. It will be foolish not to worry about security. I mean, the moment the data leaves your premises, if not properly secure, it's susceptible to be intercepted by bad actors, and worse, I mean, these bad actors could also send instructions to your equipment to make them do things you don't want them to do, right? That said, I would say that what could be misplaced is the idea that their data is more secure in their own premises than in the cloud. I mean, in most cases, the ability to secure the infrastructure and the data of an SMB cannot match the ability of a cloud vendor that does that for a living, day in, day out, at a much larger scale. So for example, at Microsoft, we synthesize a vast amount of data from a huge variety of sources. For example, in Outlook and Office 365, we analyze 400 billion emails every month. We scan 1.2 billion devices every month with Windows Defender. We have 1 billion plus Azure users accounts and 450 billion monthly authentications with Azure Active Directory. So we see more attacks than most other companies on a given day, and we get a lot of information from defending against those attacks. And also 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use enterprise security from Microsoft. So we learn a lot. We have 3,500 plus people that are full-time on security. So the chances that we can provide a tighter security are better. I'm not saying that we're smarter or better than the small and medium businesses. It's just that we have more resources and people dedicated to security, and we do it at a much larger scale. So we learn about security threats that are out there, and we use machine learning technologies to identify things that are suspicious. So your chances of having the data on our cloud secure are much better at a lower cost.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that companies like Microsoft have the resources and the sort of bandwidth to support much more significant security operations than smaller competitors. So, and I think that's important to know, because like cloud really is one of the backbone pieces of infrastructure for broader digital initiatives. And I think at this point, I want to sort of switch the conversation a little and start to talk a little bit more about what some more manufacturing focused initiatives look like on the ground. And in particular, I want to have Saul talk a little bit about the kind of ways that smaller manufacturers are using Tulip and sort of building applications to their particular lines and processes.
Yeah, I think, I think this point is very interesting, and definitely I agree with it. I think when we serve small and medium manufacturers, what we focus on is ensuring fast time to value, because, as Diego said before, they have no time to waste, right? To achieve this, we help them identify what's an important pain point or operational goal early in our engagement with them, right? So once we identify that, we help them solve that pain point with Tulip apps, and we support them as they build or customize existing apps in our ecosystem. So bear in mind that this process of building an app or customizing it only takes a couple of hours. So this process can happen really, really fast. So for example, during our free trial, we help all our users build an app that they can deploy in the shop floor within that 30-day trial. Because going to Diego's point, I think the key here is, we do this for a living, right? So it's not to say that we're smarter than anyone, it's just to say that we have the resources to really support that digital transformation through the apps. So the point is, it's a very fast development and deployment cycle, right? So once we solve a problem, we measure, customers show return on investment, and then we help them move to the next use case. That way, they're never investing without seeing a return, and they see that initial return really fast. So by doing this, we're ensuring that they spend on projects that will move the needle and not on shiny objects. And again, the best way to do this in our experience, especially with SMBs, is by working with those closest to operations. So and the reason is because they're the ones who understand the challenges of their shop floor better than anyone else. So our approach always, but in particular with SMBs, is to empower them with the tools and the know-how they need in order to drive that digital transformation.
I think that's a really important point, that it's something that happens in stages, where you first need to come up with a concrete business case or some sort of manufacturing operation where it's not just going to be a shiny piece of technology on your lines, but there's going to be some sort of measurable result from it. And there's no reason to move on to the next stage until you've seen that measurable result.
Absolutely.
So just to continue on that, you talked a lot about empowering engineers and like working with people who are closest to manufacturing problems. What are some of the kinds of problems that people come to you with? Like, how are you building use cases around?
Yeah. So we see a lot of repeatable use cases. More than problems, they come with challenges or with operational goals that they want us to help them solve. That they want to build Tulip apps for. A very common one is digitizing work instructions. So most SMBs have some sort of work instruction that they use to guide operators, but it's usually paper-based. which obviously, is not best practice, and everyone knows this. And it doesn't, first of all, nobody uses a paper-based work instruction because it's cumbersome. You can't keep track of versions. It doesn't really add that much value to the operator, and it doesn't capture any data. So they come to us to build, to build apps to turn those paper-based work instructions into digital interactive apps to guide operators, prevent mistakes, and collect real-time data on their processes. That's a very common one. Another very common one is machine monitoring. So SMBs can have a lot of expensive equipment, but not knowing what's running and what isn't becomes wasteful. So they come to us to connect their machines and build apps to monitor them, track, OEE. But with Tulip, the benefit is that they can also do OPE, overall process effectiveness, so they can gain a holistic view of their shop floor to minimize downtime. There's many others. We have an entire app library on our website to showcase some of the most common use cases. I think one particularly popular with SMBs is one we like to call the no MES solution. So this is, for SMBs who don't have an MES, but they want to use Tulip to build a system that effectively fulfills many of the same functionalities that have been traditionally fulfilled by either a homegrown or a off-the-shelf MES. So for example, they can do work order management, inventory management, work order execution, work instructions, bill of material, etc. And it's so common, we've seen it so many times that we package it as a bundle that we make available for all our customers free of charge.
That's excellent. And I think underneath these sort of MES and underneath these repeatable use cases is something like kind of a fairly simple concept, which is just like we have on the shop floor all of these processes and they could be generating data, but usually accessing that data is not a simple process. And the sort of, in our experience, things that move the needle, like digital innovations that move the needle, are ones that take things that you're doing in your operations and turn them into actual actionable data, that take work instructions that can follow an operator through a process and figure out which steps are the most difficult, which need reworking, which aren't intuitive. Machine monitoring, something that can take the data that your machines naturally put out and turn it into information you can use to reduce downtime or make maintenance schedules more efficient, or figure out if you're actually using resources efficiently. These are things that are happening in your factory no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really interesting to hear those use cases, but I think what would be useful is to hear both of our speakers, both Saul and Diego, talk about what they would recommend for an SMB who wants to get started with digital manufacturing but doesn't know where to start. So Diego, would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. I would say for anyone, but particularly for an SMB who wants to start in the digital transformation journey, is don't pursue technology for the sake of technology, and start with a clear pain point, like Saul mentioned a few minutes ago, or a business goal: reduce unplanned downtime, reduce defect rates, reduce energy consumption, etc. And technology will follow. And then use solutions like Tulips that let you try before you buy, and also from a vendor that understands the challenges in manufacturing. And then start small. A single machine, a single line. Don't boil the ocean. Show success, and then learn and rinse and repeat. Expand to a large problem, or a same problem on a larger scale, or other problems. Another thing I will recommend is don't do this alone. Leverage peer networks. Join the MEP network, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, or Manufacturing USA, that has centers that focus on digital manufacturing, or additive manufacturing, or energy. Engage with smart and knowledgeable software vendors such as Tulip. Lastly, another perspective that may be useful is to think about the 4 stages of Industry 4.0 maturity as you go through your journey. Stage 1, Start with the ability to see what's happening. Connect your equipment and people like Tulip enables you to do, to gather sensor and process data, and then monitor this data to detect when it's out of acceptable ranges or to detect anomalies and raise alerts. Build dashboards that report on OEE, throughputs, energy consumption, etc. Then stage 2, move into understanding why this is happening. Analyze the data to identify trends, clusters, categories that may explain the root causes of what's happening and identify areas of improvement. Then stage 3, evolve into predicting what will happen. Use machine learning, for example, to make predictions based on historic data. Finally, stage 4, and as I like to call it, the Industry 4.0 nirvana, reach the autonomous stage, where you use machine learning to propose actions or autonomously react to overcome a problem or improve efficiency, or to enable machines to self-optimize by automatically tweaking its production parameters. But again, in summary, don't start with a business problem or a pain point. Don't do this alone, and think about the 4 stages of Industry 4.0 maturity when you start your journey. Don't skip stages because it could be painful.
Yeah, I think those are really good points, and definitely things we see our customers struggling with, the different trade-offs, especially as you're starting your journey. Thinking about the stages of your digital transformation and being aware is very important. And I will echo everything Diego said. I mean, I would suggest you look really close at your operation and identify where you're feeling the pain or where you're struggling, what challenges you're facing, what kind of operational goal you're trying to hit. If it's a quality issue, if it's a productivity issue, is it a visibility issue? Identify that and then focus on that area and look for a solution that can help you solve that pain point. So start from the problem and not from the solution. As Diego said, don't do technology for technology's sake. And then once you're kind of clear on what type of technology you need or what type of solution, to select the right vendor, just look for a company, that, as we said before, lets you try before you buy, or at least a company that lets you try it, at a low price point, so you can really evaluate this with low risk. And a good kind of red flag is if the company doesn't even have pricing, maybe stay away from it, because it might mean opaqueness and hidden fees later on. Really, software as a service and cloud is really about more increased transparency and about paying for what you need as you scale. So I guess once you select the vendor, focus on solving that initial pain point and showing return on investment, as Diego said. And once you do that, then and only then you should consider expanding to other areas of your operation. So as Diego said, start small and grow. I always tell our customers, to avoid the buzzwords, right? You'll hear promises about AI, blockchain, augmented reality, and so on. But in the end, those are all great technologies. But if you don't start with a problem, you're not gonna get anywhere. And if the vendor's pitch sounds like science fiction, it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on both ends there was a lot of really excellent information. And as we're kind of winding to a close here, I just want to open it up one last time and see if, Diego, you have anything else you want to add at the end, or Saul, if there's anything else you'd like to say.
Yes, sure. I'd like to thank you, John and Saul, for the opportunity to participate in your webinar. And we believe that Tulip is a clear thought leader in the industry with very smart people. And we value the partnership very much. And thank you to all of you who are listening for your time and attention.
Yeah, likewise. Diego, I want to thank you for joining us in today's webinar. For everyone who is listening, We love working with Microsoft and as a partner, and hosting Tulip and Azure as well. So thank you very much.
Well, I think I'll join this thank you train and say, Diego, thank you so much for joining us. We love working with Microsoft, and it's been great to hear your opinions on this. And I think you shared a lot of really insightful and important things. Saul, thank you again for your time. As you can see on this last slide, here's information to contact us if you have any questions. Other than that, thank you all so much for listening. Please be in touch, and thank you again.